Hey everybody, welcome to Rumors versus Facts, the Georgia recruiting show where we try to wade through all the bullcrap rumors that are out there and hit you with some actual facts. And I have a team of recruiting experts here who can help weed out the smoke from the fire and the smoke from the fog. And just remember, at this time of year, there are a lot of people who are just professional trolls. They like to throw out information because they love to. I mean, some men just want to watch the world burn. So they throw it out there and people believe it and they jump all over it and it's nuts. And you don't need to, because there's enough crazy crap happening in real life that you don't need to follow every wild rumor that is out there. On the show tonight, we've got Jed May, Lance Curley, and of course, Trent Smallwood. Three recruiting experts. I'm just here to basically run the show. That's all I do. If you have questions and comments, please mention them there. And if you would follow us, we're getting really close to hitting 42,000. We're just like 150 subscribers away. And I really would like to hit that. The start of the season at 36 and to hit 42,000 would be awesome. Thanks to Jermaine, Andy, and Greg for being on here. I appreciate that. Guys, we did have a show last week. We're doing stuff. You guys were actually covering the state championship games in Mercedes-Benz Dome. You did a great job. I guess we could have been talking about it earlier. The whole Dylan Raiola fiasco. Earlier today, he has flipped his commitment from Georgia to Nebraska. Georgia loses out on the number two quarterback, or number two player, the number one quarterback in the nation. He's going to Nebraska. Give me your thoughts on it. We'll start with you, Trent.
Well, I mean, he's a Nebraska legacy. I think the thing that really shocks people is he moved all the way across the country to play high school football, came to all the home games except for one of Georgia. So I guess you're looking at about 6 home games, recruiting nonstop for the University of Georgia, was even in home and had KJ Bolden's family in home a week before all this happened and recruiting KJ to Athens. And then all of a sudden, 2 or 3 days later, all this pops up and poof, he's gone. So it was either a very last minute ordeal, or this has kind of been in the back of some people's minds for a couple weeks. In the minds, I'm talking about Raiola family, making this work out. So I think to the public, it all popped up in about 10 days and was just boom. But I think this was a longer deal situation for the Raiola family. I think this has been, not necessarily in the works, but being thought out for much longer than 10 days.
Yeah, Jed, how'd this happen?
Well, it was almost exactly a week ago at this time that everyone starts texting us and saying, "Hey, what's going on?" And we started digging into it that Monday night, and it went from there's legs to this to Georgia should be worried to about Tuesday afternoon. It really seemed like it was pretty far down the road. So. As Trent said, Dylan was in Athens about every weekend. He did make a game day visit to Nebraska at some point during the season. It might have been during Georgia's bye week. It might have been Florida week. I can't remember. But, at the time, it's like, okay, well, his uncle's on staff. You don't really think a whole lot of it. Nebraska it's a cool place to watch a game no matter what the product on the field is like. So you don't think a whole lot of it at the time. But looking back, you wonder if that's when things really started percolating a bit as far as getting this flip together. So yeah, he took an official this weekend, and it finally popped today with the infamous poem that he's put on social media now, the commitment video where he's in the stadium and the locker room. So it was.
Oh, was there a video?
This wasn't a case of he went on an official and he just felt something and decided to pop. This was this was a very choreographed thing as far as getting the video together and all that kind of stuff on the visit. So congrats to him. Like Trent said, this is a family thing. It's a big deal for the Raiola family. And but yeah, from a Georgia perspective, it's pretty out of left field for sure. I mean, last Monday night we were all kind of like, where's this whole thing coming from? Because like Trent said, he's been recruiting and everything for weeks. So it's out of left field for sure.
It kind of shocked me. Lance, give me your take on it.
It all happened relatively fast, like kind of Jed said, and it happened. Our phones started blowing up, I think, in the middle of the first quarter of the Class A Division II state championship game between Manchester and then I didn't really think too much of it until I actually sat down and had a chance to just kind of read everything and kind of take it in. And then, and then he's in Nebraska on Friday. And, today, the last day or so, we were just kind of waiting on, when it was going to happen. So, like Jed said, it kind of caught everyone a little bit off guard. And I think that it caught a lot of the players that we've talked to that are committed to Georgia a little off guard as well. So,
Gotcha. What was Brett Thornton's post?
So he had
Marvin Jones had to drink a beer.
Yeah. And then he also said he asked if the transfer portal was open when Carson Beck said he was coming back.
That's great. Yeah, so the bitch never gets to punt with Carson Beck here. I get it. I get it. That's pretty good. All right, so the Dylan Raiola thing is done. When we heard about it, we called, got late. Quick breakdown. Hey, they hire an agent. The agent comes to Georgia, asks for more money. Georgia says, here's what we can give you, through the NIL process. They went to Nebraska. Nebraska's giving him a hell of a lot more money. He's got a legacy there. People go in, it had to do with Carson Beck. It didn't have shit to do with Carson Beck. Excuse my language. It had nothing to do with him coming back or going. It wasn't, he didn't wait until Carson Beck announced to put his, to flip to Georgia. He already had the video made. So this was a done deal. He's getting a heck of a lot more money to go to Nebraska. That's all it is. I mean, you can look at depth charts, you can look at locations, you can look at all that. He didn't come to Buford, and play behind that suspect offensive line, get the hell beat out of him because he wasn't coming to Georgia. At the last minute, they flipped him. Now, let's move on. So the Dylan Raiola chapter, at his commitment to Georgia, done. We'll move on. We won't talk about him again. But my question to you guys is there somebody in Georgia's current recruiting class that another school can come to and say, hey, here's a giant wad of money. Why don't you come to our school? Or is there a school that Georgia could go to and says, hey, you've been committed to this school for, a whole year. Here's a giant wad of money. Come to Georgia. So whereas I think Kirby for the last few years took all the drama pretty much out of signing day. To me, the drama now is, when do we get to send out the tweet that says X is now officially a dog? Y is now officially Georgia Bulldog. To me, the drama of signing day was kind of on the wane, but now it's like, okay, nobody can come in at the last second and flip one of these kids with a giant pile of cash. Are there some names we should be worried about, or are there some names we should be watching?
I mean, go ahead, Trent.
Oh, okay. There was about 5 kids that I was monitoring, and I think 3 of them are already on campus. Jaden Riddell, the Texas duo with Justin Williams and JJA. Nate Frazier is a guy who's got a connection out there. He's running back. Oregon's still coming after him hard. And then Nitro Tuggle, who's committed to Georgia, did not go on his LSU official visit, which is good news, and said he'd be signing with Georgia on Wednesday, which is good news. So we will monitor those 2 situations. But if Georgia can smooth through those 2 situations and land those 2 guys, I think all of them be accounted for and good to go.
Well, and Trent, it's funny you say that, because I had Greg Smith from our Nebraska site reach out, because people on the Nebraska board today were talking about, Georgia's class, they're having to fight to keep the class together and everything like this. And I was like, well, really, outside of Raiola, the class is pretty much, intact. Like Trent said, the Texas guys and Jaden Riddell are on campus. Georgia looks to be in really good shape to keep Nate Frazier, Nitro Tuggle. And outside of that, there's not a whole lot of flip risk out there. It seems like, that there's a little bit with Ellis Robinson for a while, with Miami coming hard.
Daniel Calhoun's already enrolled.
Namdiak Boko visited Notre Dame at some point during the season, but it's pretty much under control right now. And again, there's still 36 hours or whatever till these guys can sign. And like Rowdy said, you never know until Georgia football, puts out that tweet, Joseph Jonah-Ajonye is officially a Bulldog, whatever. But yeah, it's pretty relatively drama free, I guess you could say, with 36. Yeah. I remember 2 years ago we were talking about what's Georgia going to do with Kamari Wilson, and are these guys going to sign? Is Georgia going to get this guy? And now it's pretty much, mostly done. I mean, the one 2024 guy you would look at is Marcellus Barnes. He
I mean, that's Wednesday.
So there's conflicting reports. I've seen that he is signing Wednesday and publicly committing at the All-American Bowl in January. I've seen that he's committing first and signing in February. I'm not 100% sure, but it seems like he's trending towards Syracuse. He was really close with Fran Brown, who is obviously now at Syracuse. He's taken one official visit so far to Syracuse. Georgia hasn't gotten one. He told myself and a couple other reporters a couple weeks ago, Georgia was going to get an official, probably the first one, and he hadn't been on campus yet. So he seems like he's trending towards Syracuse. But other than that, the 2024 class is pretty much done, and Georgia looks in good position to keep everybody that's on the commit list right now, other than obviously Dylan Raiola, who flipped today.
Lance, we got a question. We're speaking of the class and some guys already being on that. I mean, to me, we knew that Justin Williams, as Trent said, was the one. Texas was coming after him, and I heard they're throwing everything at this kid. I'm like, okay, but he's here. There's a good question: is Ellis Robinson already in Athens?
Yeah, Ellis Robinson is Athens. He's been spotted on campus through some channels that I've gotten to know some people, and he's been spotted. And
That's a nice way of putting it.
And Ryan Puglisi is already in Athens as well, and like Riddell, there's several other guys. So, but yes, Ellis Robinson is in Athens.
I know you guys came up with a long list. How many early enrollees will Georgia have out of this 27 commitments?
I should have pulled this up. I think it's.
I mean, come on, you got one job.
21.
Yeah, I know it's right around 19, 20, I think.
But then a couple others that we had. Wasn't two more that added on?
Yeah, Christopher Jones was kind of up in the air for a while, just in terms of numbers. It was depending on what Smile Monda and Jamon Dumas Johnson were doing. He's enrolling early now, linebacker.
Because Dumas Johnson is in the portal.
So that's one.
Quintavious Johnson.
Yeah, Quintavious Johnson. We weren't entirely sure about. He's in fact already in. I think you said Trent. So. Nate Frazier is not an early enrollee. Dwight Phillips is not an early enrollee. Justin Green is not. I don't think Nasir Johnson is.
No,
that's 4. Let's see how Boko is. This is.
I love the fact that we are figuring out who is not. Okay,
yeah,
folks, you got to understand.
It's
I've been doing this 30 years, and I remember when you would talk about the 2 or 3 early enrollees. Back in the Richt era. And that's not a shot against him. It's just, it didn't work out that way. Now, we're talking 15% of the class is not an early enrollee, which means everyone's freaking out about the portal. Look at all the guys in the transfer portal. You had 14 2 years ago. You had 15 last year. And I think you got, 15 scholarship guys in the portal right now, 3 non-scholarship guys, although they, contributors, a couple of them. But you're about to sign. How many commits are there?
27.
That's right. Okay, so 27 early. I wasn't sure. So 27. You got to have room for your seniors your seniors could leave. But remember, a lot of those seniors have a COVID year that they can take. So we've seen some guys who are coming back, like Warren Brinson. He's got a COVID year, so he can come back. It gets really crazy. You got to have room. So these guys going in the portal, that's fine. You've lost one starter, it stinks to lose Dumas Johnson, but I kind of feel like he's been recruited over with the guys you got coming in this class. But you're going to have 21, 22 of your current, and let's add in maybe 2 or 3 transfer portal guys. You could have 22, 23 new players on your roster by January 1st or so to go through spring practice. And a lot of these guys going through bowl practice. You'll be ready to play a game by April. Like, hey, Clemson, y'all come over early. Let's go.
I think the big key for these teams now are getting guys on campus to have enough depth for spring practice and to be able to see what you got in spring and see what these freshmen, see which freshmen can contribute right away, see which ones are going to be in the race for a spot. What you got a feeling like Ellis Robinson's going to be a race for a spot. Maybe several of those defensive players, DeMelo Jones even can come on. So you see what you got, and then you know what you're working with come summer or that second transfer portal season, and see if you need to fill any of these vacancies. And so it's interesting. I think getting these guys on campus early and getting them a full or half of a year before they start is big. Not only in seeing the production, but also getting them in the weight room.
Now I know that to me it's very interesting right now that let me bring this up. So that's the updated Georgia recruiting commitment list, right?
Mhm.
Ellis Robinson at the top of it, Justin Williams, your 2 5-stars. They're both on campus already.
Mhm.
Should have been Dylan Raiola. He should have been here, but he's not going to be. It's a little hard to see, but what is the team recruiting rank there?
Yeah, number 1, because Ohio State just lost running back Jordan Loud.
No, don't give me that. Nobody loses recruits but Georgia. Nobody goes in the portal but Georgia. I don't want to hear your crap.
It's true. Georgia lost that number 1 spot for about
25
4
minutes.
hours. Yeah. So, and even then, like Georgia loses the like you said, right, number 2 player in the country. And I think I looked earlier and Ohio State was ahead by like 13 points. Like the margin was razor thin as it was. So, and now let's see, what is it? Georgia's up by about 68 points. So
68 points.
Yeah. So Georgia, and like I said last night, I mean, Georgia, someone asked on the board, Georgia was going to have a top 3 class, whether Raiola ended up flipping or not. So it's not like this is if Florida's class, for example, just thinking of Florida's class off the top of my head.
Does Florida have a class?
Exactly.
They got commits.
If DJ Lagway flips from Florida, then all of a sudden he is the crown jewel of that class, I guess is a way of saying it. And when you look at Georgia's class, yeah, Raiola was really good, but like a lot of people think Ellis Robinson might be a better prospect than even Raiola is. So
a lot of people think Ryan Puglisi is a better quarterback.
Yeah. So there's
every coach at the University of Georgia before Dylan Raiola flipped.
I guess the thing is Georgia's class isn't one that's going to fall apart because of one prospect going elsewhere, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
No. Let's move on to the biggest news of the day. I know we talk recruiting here on Rumors versus Facts, and we appreciate everybody that's tuned in. If you would, hit the like button. Got hundreds of people in here. I appreciate that. The biggest news to me was the recruitment that went behind landing Carson Beck earlier today. Carson Beck announced that he's coming back. We told people 2 weeks ago that all signs pointed to Carson Beck returning. We kept every day we got asked about it. Every day we said, look, everything that we've heard coming out of the Butts-Mehre building is that Carson Beck is returning. Mm-hmm. Every coach believes it. All the players on the team believe it. Everybody we've spoken to around the program believes it. But until he puts out the affirmation, in other words, it's not real until it's on social media. But they actually announced it earlier today, about 30 minutes before the Dylan Raiola news hit, which I thought was very interesting coordination. Maybe that's what somebody over the weekend said, I'm hearing that Dylan Raiola is texting Kirby and he might not flip. I'm like, that's bull. The dude's gone. We know this, and as you know, the video was being made and it was all set up. Maybe they were coordinating when they would release their news. I don't know, but getting Carson Beck back is a gigantic win because you had to recruit him back. He could have gone to the NFL. He has a fantastic draft grade. He would have gone basically each school's allowed 5 graded players. The NFL will grade 5 players for you. And when you get the grade back, it says first round, second round, or basically return to school, 3rd through 7th, or undraftable. It's A, B, and C. A's first round, B second round, C is 3rd and beyond to undraftable. You just don't know. Now they can pay to have more players done because Georgia's had a ton of guys drafted in the past. So that they got their 5 complimentary and then they had to move on to the others. Carson Beck's draft grade was very good. He could have gone. So you guys give me your take on the fact that you landed the most important. I mean, yeah, Georgia's going to add 27 players for winning next year. You won your biggest battle today. That's just my take. Give me your thoughts.
With what the schedule looks like, I mean, having Beck back is huge because you were looking in the face of taking a first-year starter into Tuscaloosa, into Austin to play Texas, and then into Ole Miss, which that team doesn't even look like the same team it did last year with all the guys they've had in the portal so far. So, it's huge, and especially you're going to be replacing 3 or 4 offensive line starters. Brock Bowers will most likely be gone. Ladd McConkey will most likely be gone. So when you're replacing so much on offense already, getting the quarterback back is massive. So it's really hard to overstate, I think, how huge it is. I mean, your leader is back. It's hard to say it any more succinctly than that.
Look at you, Trent.
I think it, like Jess said, with the schedule next year, and I think a lot of people overlook the fact that Warren Brinson's coming back. I mean, just for having that experience come back for on the road, Smile Munden coming back is a big deal. I mean, getting those guys back in the middle of your defense, getting the guys back in the middle of your offense.
Tate Ratledge.
Ratledge,
you're expecting.
And I know that Van Pran can't come back, of course, but you're getting Carson Beck back. It's going to be a lot easier on the center instead of having a new center and a new quarterback. So it's a big deal. And Carson Beck will come into next year as one of the top 5 in the Heisman. He's going to get a bunch of offseason hype. Whether or not he can, move up his draft, that's yet to be determined. But I think that for Georgia's sake, this is the real deal. You're looking back at guys like that's come back in the past, like your Nick Chubb and Sony Michel's, and how much of a factor they played. And this is at the quarterback position, so it's a big deal.
It's huge from a leadership standpoint too, especially with even Andy mentioned it. Jim, is the Clemson, in Atlanta next year, a neutral site game, and you don't have a lot of true road games, but I mean, having a guy like Carson Beck leading you into Tuscaloosa, leading you into battle, at Texas is huge for this offense with a pretty solid wide receiver core that I think is going to come back next year if Ra and Dominic Lovett decide to come back as well.
Well, I'm kind of the opposite of that. Getting those guys back is big, but to me, losing Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers, who are both going pro, from everything we've heard, you get some experienced guys back, Dylan Bell as well, but you don't have that kind of that go-to guy, that established guy that comes back. But again, that's par for the course for Georgia. You had Jermaine Burton, he leaves. A.D. Mitchell, he leaves. Ladd McConkey, he leaves. Like, hey, okay, Georgia's going to go undefeated next year because your top wide receiver is leaving you for the 3rd year in a row. But this one's going pro. To me, getting Carson Beck back is gigantic because you're losing your center, so you got to replace the center there. You're losing Xavier Truss, who was your left guard. You're losing your right tackle and Amarius Mims. Tate Ratledge is back. That's huge. So, I mean, you get replacing 3 offensive linemen with, now, granted, Micah Morris and Dylan Fairchild are great, and Monroe Freeling can pop in over there at right tackle. But you've got 2 good, talented guys on the offensive line. Your quarterback knows what he's doing. He's lost his top tight end target. He's lost his top wide receiver target. But if anybody can handle that, it's the guy that's gone through with a couple of those offensive linemen, with the second and third tight ends, with Dominic, with Ra, like you were mentioning. And all of a sudden, he's like, hey, I need you to move up on line. I need you to move over. This is how this play's supposed to look. I know what everybody's positions are. And here's the thing that a lot of people don't talk about with Carson Beck. Very cerebral. Kirby Smart, how many times have you been in the room when Kirby Smart says he doesn't get too high, he doesn't get too low. Doesn't wear his heart on his sleeve. This guy's a methodical QB, and he's going to have to replace a lot of – hey, you're losing your top 2 running backs. So you've got a lot of new faces out there that you're going to have to work with. I could see that being a lot to ask either Ryan Puglisi, a guy who's just coming in from high school, or Gunnar Stockton in his 2nd year of college. For redshirt freshman, that's a lot to put on. Hey, go beat Texas, go beat Alabama on the road with new pieces. Getting Carson Beck back, to me, I said it earlier when we did our reaction show, that's 2 wins. Getting him back today, Georgia wins 2 games more than I would have given them a chance to next year.
So they're winning 18?
Yeah. I'm just saying I could see Georgia being the underdog on the road at Texas and at Alabama. But you give me Carson.
When's the last time Georgia was the underdog?
I don't know. But would you have thought of them as being favored and with a new freshman quarterback?
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
But if they're favored going into Austin, I'd be like, okay, I'm not shocked.
No. And I think Carson Beck can't. I mean, this time last year, we look back, Carson Beck, he's a backup quarterback at this point last year. I mean, Georgia's getting ready to play in the playoffs. He's a backup quarterback, goes into the spring, still not named the starting quarterback. Everybody knew he was going to be the starting quarterback, but still wasn't named the starting quarterback. I think a year, off season with him being the guy and him being able to work with the guys is not only going to be beneficial for him, but it's going to be beneficial for Georgia. And Beck's still got some improvement. I mean, he missed a lot of guys this year that either on the deep pass or that was running open that he didn't see, and that's just from the inexperience of playing in games. And Beck was really good, but there's some stuff he can work on, and an off season being that number one guy will be interesting to see how he comes out next year in that first game, because I think Beck's really good. He's very poised, very accurate with the football. Just has some eye, being able to see guys. I know Dominic Levitt ran open a couple times, and then SC championship, and he missed him. So just some little things, but I think another offseason with him as number one guy is going to be huge.
I want to go back to your point when Stetson Bennett wins the championship in his year, the first year, and he decides to come back, right? The difference between that first year, he wins the title. When he came back in 2020, he went 15-0. The calmness that he had, the command that he had, I could definitely see year two Carson Beck being that guy. Am I wrong, Jed? I mean,
No.
That's what it looked like to me. Stetson Bennett looked, and granted, he was 27, 29 years old. I know people make that joke all the time, but he just seemed like it seemed like the game really slowed down for him. And I look at how Carson started out. Like you said last year, Trent, he was he's the backup. Then he goes through spring as finally being the guy. Remember there was this like open competition, whatever, and then now he goes in. There's no question. He's the guy, gets all the reps. He knows what he did wrong this year in live fire, live bullets. He knows what he needs to work on, and now he gets to go into year two. Knowing his strengths, knowing his weaknesses, knowing what to work on, knowing that this money here. He's got to get everything fixed and polished up and spit shined because the schedule's tougher, but also he's trying out for the NFL, in my opinion. But to me, Stetson year one, Stetson year two, different guys.
Another offseason with Mike Bobo too, because people can talk about all they want to with his play calling and stuff. He's a damn good quarterback coach, and so another offseason with Bobo and working on being able to go actually look at game film and take that game film and take his flaws and work on them all off season.
I got it. One of the questions we got is about a lot of portal questions. So the first one that popped up was, is Georgia getting that running back from Florida? So I don't know if they're going to get him or not, but I like Georgia's chances right now. Give me your thoughts, guys.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia's right in the thick of it for sure, and it's one that's kind of it's ebbed and flowed a little bit. Like when he first went in, Georgia seemed like they had plenty of momentum, and then it kind of cooled off a little bit, and now Georgia's back to right there at the top of it. And I don't think, Trent, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think he's taken any visits anywhere, Trevor Etienne. So it's kind of a communication with the coaches and relationship standpoint. Georgia definitely had a relationship with him dating back into his recruitment. So Georgia's in there. I would imagine LSU is fighting hard as well to bring him home to Louisiana. And
you haven't heard much about any other teams even being involved, and that's the interesting thing. I don't think he has to take visits. I mean, they went through the whole visit process with the brother, and then they went through the visit process with him, and this was just a couple years ago. Georgia still got the same running back coach, still got pretty much the same offensive staff. It's just he doesn't have to take visits. He's been to those campuses. He's been to Georgia. He's been to LSU. He's been to Clemson. He's been to all these schools. He doesn't have to take visits to figure out where he's going to go. He just really is just talking. And I'm sure at some point Georgia's been down to see him, during the visit period. I think it's just right now it's just figuring out what's the best fit for him, and maybe some NIL. I don't know.
NIL will factor into it a lot. I know there have been some questions about Walter Nolan. All right. I'll take that one because I was the one to put it on the board. Walter Nolan, I guess, to me, that's got to be the biggest available target in the transfer portal.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's the biggest, period. I mean, even with the quarterbacks, I think he's the biggest, period.
But I mean, everybody wants a game-changing defensive lineman. And I haven't been following this closely, but I just didn't see that many in the portal. There were like at one point 60 quarterbacks in the portal, but how many top starters? There was a bunch of starters in the starting quarterbacks. I mean, you saw them leave from really good programs. Top 15 programs started quarterback in the portal. How many top name defensive linemen were in the portal?
Definitely not many like Walter Nolan.
Yeah,
for sure.
Not many in the past, hour or so. Joshua Farmer, who, was a highly rated recruit out of Florida State, has entered the portal. That's another name to watch.
Yeah.
Well, they're all going. I mean, all the ones that have went in the portal went to Ole Miss. So I think Ole Miss is running a 9 defensive line package next year.
Yeah, I mean, you got LT Overton in there. A couple of guys everyone was thinking about, like Shamar Stewart and who's that Kentucky kid, Deion Walker. Did they ever go in?
Nope.
I thought I was.
Point being, and even some of the big offensive lineman names, the trench guys seem to have it's a very extensive portal, but there's not as many of them. Anyway, Walter Nolan, I was told that Georgia was looking into him 4 or 5 days ago. I went on their UGA Sports message board. I went on the vault and said, hey, I was wrong because I told everybody that Georgia was not looking at LT Overton or Walter Nolan and a few other names that were just like, look, Georgia's just not interested in because the bidding on these things is going to be too much. The situations are the bidding in these situations is not what Georgia does. They're not going to throw off the locker room chemistry by going and throwing $750,000 in NIL at a one guy, when somebody else on the team that plays the same position is only getting $75,000 or $7,500. They're just not going to ruin it like that. Then I went on the vault and said, hey, I was wrong. There are some names out there that Georgia is looking at who we expect to be kind of high priced. I don't call them mercenaries. The kids are doing what's best for them. They're leaving situations they don't like. And, why not get the best? I have no compunction with Dylan Raiola. He's getting a lot more money by going there than coming to Georgia. So congratulations to him. But I was told that Georgia is looking at Walter Nolan now. I'm like, what will come of it? I don't know. Just the fact that they're kicking the tires there, that's big. And I know the people involved, and this is not internet hype. It's not trolling. It's not, a couple days before signing day. So let's try to juice the numbers. We are a subscription-based site. We don't get paid by the click. You can click 1,000 times on our site. You can click 0 times on our site. We get paid the same. So this isn't some clickbait BS. I'm just telling you that I know people involved in it, and Georgia has looked at Walter Nolan. Now, is he listening? I mean, he's going to listen. Georgia recruited him really hard, and they know his father. They know his family. They'll talk to him and find out if he's interested or not. Does he wind up at Ole Miss? Very possible. But one of our Ole Miss writers reached out to me and said, hey, and this is how we were able to go public with it. It broke on the Ole Miss side. Everybody's wondering, why hasn't Walter Nolan signed? Why hasn't he signed? He's supposed to be the guy. And you notice how they had each one of those announcements kind of lined up every hour, every day or something. There's another Ole Miss commit. That's a great way that you break big news. You don't do it all at once. You do it as a drip, 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 and you really create that persona that everybody's going there. Of course, it helps if everybody's going there. But he was supposed to be the next one, and everyone started wondering, where's the Walter Nolan side? Now, hell, he could, while we're on the show, he might wind up committing there. But I'm telling you that Georgia did look into him, has looked into him, and has been talking to him. So now all of a sudden he's, everyone has said he's a slam dunk to Ole Miss. Well, he ain't there yet. So Georgia's fighting for him. Georgia was looking into Trevor Etienne. They're looking at Colby Young. Who else was? You guys keep up with all the. Who else?
Guy from Vanderbilt is the one who, I guess, Georgia feels, and we feel most confident in Georgia landing at this point. He visited, was it this weekend? Last weekend, wasn't it? He visited Georgia.
Last weekend.
That's the one that, again, Georgia feels most confident in. It hasn't broken yet, but that's one that we're still kind of in, not wait and see mode, but just kind of waiting for it to pop. There's Colby Young, like you mentioned, Roddy, the big guy from Miami. He was only in Athens, I think.
6'5"?
Yeah, 6'5", I think. He visited Georgia. It wasn't a weekend thing. He was at Georgia for a day, and then he went to Penn State for an official over the weekend. So Georgia's battling with some schools there. There's Holden Stays, the tight end from Notre Dame, who visited, which was interesting until he committed to Tennessee like 24 hours later. So that was much ado about nothing. And, I think another name that went in today is Damani Jackson from USC.
Yeah, somebody was asking about him in the
Dante
comments section.
Williams from USC, defensive backs coach, and Jackson's a guy that's really close with Williams. So Georgia needs to, I would say replenish that defensive back room a little bit. I believe Jackson's a corner more so than a safety, and I think Georgia might need a safety more than a corner. But you kind of take what you can get at a point.
Yeah,
So,
they're both.
That would be
taking a guy like of his caliber if Julian Humphreys is on the fence, because you might just be offsetting your roster.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you got to be careful with the guys that you take. You got to take positions of need. And if cornerback is not necessarily a position of need, it might be. But I'm just saying, if cornerback's not a position,
it's not until it is, Trent.
But if you're looking at getting numbers, I think this could offset your numbers. If you got guys that are thinking about going to the portal, and then you bring in a 5-star who started at USC, who is one of the top players in the country, and then Julian Humphrey's like, well, I'll go Texas A&M to start for sure. I'm just throwing it out there. It might not help your numbers.
To me, though, if I'm Kirby Smart, and again, I don't even like saying that sentence because I never want to act like I'm giving advice. But to your point, yeah, you bring somebody in and that runs somebody off. Happens all the time. And we had the question there from Quinn Brown, who's watching on X. I appreciate it. Says, I'm worried about Michael Williams and Julian Humphreys because I can tell you for certain they have talked about the portal. Will they get into it? I don't know. Sometimes it's just seeing what your options are. If you bring one in, you could scare one off. But at the same time, I could definitely see Kirby going, well, if you're waffling, you're not sure, and this 5-star kid wants to come here, I'm going to go ahead and take him. And if you leave, then I'm fine. But what you don't want is I'm not going to take this 5-star who's in the portal, and then you leave, and then I got nobody. So like you said, it's not a problem until it is. Your numbers don't work out. So if you bring one in and one leaves, so be it. I mean, you're still at one. But if you get towards the end of the portal and all of a sudden – and remember, you can't take somebody from the SEC in the second open period. So in other words, if like Brock Vandegrift, he put his name in the portal right after the portal opens and he goes to Kentucky. If he had waited till after spring when the portal opens again, you can't transfer within the SEC and play that year. You have to sit out a year. So if you're going to transfer within the SEC, and granted, we're talking Southern Cal, but just as a reminder, like Walter Nolan, if he wants to transfer it, if he was going to go to Alabama, Ole Miss, Georgia, something like that, he needs to do it in the first transfer period, which is why you see so many names in there. And I think you're going to see a lot less in the second one after spring practice. All right. See Dustin Golden saying, hey, who else are we getting? Question about is Bullard coming back? No. Answer that. Not going to happen. What is the I think there's going. What's the overall portal number? How many guys do you think they take from the portal?
I'd go over 3.
Yeah, I would go over 3 as well.
It's not going to be 15, but I think 5 or 6 is definitely possible.
I'd definitely put a lot of money if it was just 3, over under 3, because I mean you're looking at having to take definitely a wide receiver. You're looking at running back if you take that. now you're getting close to a situation where you might take a defensive back safety. You're definitely going to take a defensive lineman. I think that's pretty much certain. At some point, you're going to take a defensive lineman. And you still have to look at edge. And I think that'll still be an evaluation going on there. So I think Georgia could be looking at at least 5 guys.
I'm going to go 4. It's just based on numbers. I don't know that you got. Do you have room for 5?
It depends on who. I mean, does
Anybody
what
else
about these?
leave?
What about these last guys? I mean, are they going to come back? They're going to leave? I think a lot depends on the numbers. Depend on what's going to happen with those guys.
I'll let you guys do this. Sorry, I'm getting sick. Compared Nolan to Jalen Carter, Walter Nolan to Jalen Carter. And by the way, I misspelled it on my tweet. It's Nolen. So I already don't like Walter Nolan because I can't spell his name right. So.
And then Humphreys has to add an S to his name.
When we say London Humphreys, it's not. There's a Y on the end with an S, but he's not Nolan. He's not Jalen Carter. There's only one Jalen Carter. There's that is a bad man.
He's good.
He could have that big an impact. You remember when Jalen Carter was not on the defensive line, and teams would be able to run, and they're moving down the field. Then he goes back out there, and all of a sudden there's a drop for a loss, or just the plays don't work right. Well, when he smashes your guard into the center, and all of a sudden your blitzing linebacker comes running through there. It's just different when he's in there, so you're not going to see him.
I'll say this: if you add a guy like Walter Nolan, and it makes Warren Brinson and Michael Williams that much better. And I think they had down years because they wasn't very good in the middle, and that. Look at the years they had before with Jalen Carter in the game, without him in the game, and then even the year prior to that. So I think having that big guy like Nolan in the middle, it was going to make the rest of your team better, including your inside linebackers.
You're dead on. All right, let's go to some of the questions from the vault at UGAsports.com. This is from Medical Dog. He says, "Do you think it's time to get rid of one of the signing days? I don't see any point in 2 signing days anymore now that." The early signing day is now in the middle of free agency.
I mean, I don't think the current model is. I mean, you think of what Kirby Smart's having to deal with, or use Nick Saban as a better example. He's getting his team ready for a national championship run while dealing with the portal and trying to finish off a signing class, which Kirby Smart is obviously doing the same thing the past couple of years. So that's insane. I wonder if they move the early period way up to I wonder if you could move it even to middle of August and guys could sign before their senior season, and then maybe this December one becomes the late signing period. I don't know. I know that the current, and a lot of coaches have said this, they're just the current model with all this stuff coinciding in the middle to late December is not sustainable. So I don't know if that's.
I think you got to find a way. I think you got to find a way to separate the two. I think you got to find a way to separate transfer portal and early signing. Yeah. And I think the only way possible is to have that early signing period like you were talking about, and then a signing period in February. I don't think you can have both in December because I think that's taken away a lot. It's hard on teams that are not in the playoffs, much less hard on teams that are in the playoffs. And you're trying to do all this, and I know they get paid a lot of money to do it, but heck, it's a lot of work. So. Right. I think you got to separate the two one way or another. You got to get the two apart because them working hand in hand is just a lot.
Now, I can see the thing where you having one separate and then the other, but at the same time, it's okay, if we lose this guy to the portal, then we know how to adjust our recruiting, and maybe vice versa. So I could definitely see the portal happening first, and then you work with your signing stuff. I can see them moving it back, moving it early. I don't think the coaches would like that, although. They do recruit all summer. But let's say it's in August. They're spending 25 days trying to get ready for the first game. It's really hard to be trying to get ready for the first game during camp and then trying to also solidify your class. But also they want to see some of these guys play their senior year.
Yeah, that's true.
Which guys are going to be dropped or added based on how they perform. And every once in a while you see a decommitment and you're like, okay, well, he's not really turning down his chance to play at Georgia or Alabama or Clemson or Ohio State. He's been turned down. So
I think the first signing class would be a very limited amount of guys, like your top rated guys that you know that you're taking no matter what, and then the rest of it's going to be.
I can see where the
With Dylan Raoul
you can do a top 10. You're on December 20th. You're allowed to sign 10 guys, and then you have to sign the rest of them later. I'd hate coaches would hate that, because like trying to figure out who they would put them on the spot. But boy, you'd find out who's important to them fast. From a media standpoint, that'd be killer.
I'm looking for more drama.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that would be man. We'd be triple the size of our subscriptions with that stuff. Hey, it's just like the NFL draft. They can take you get 7 picks. There's 30 guys you're looking at. You get to pick 7. You got to put your money where your mouth is. So that would be wild. So anyway, that was a question. They got to get rid of one of them, or at least they got to rework it. Medical dog. It's just not. It's not like it's supposed to. Andy, who's on the show all the time, asked about Malachi Nelson if Beck leaves. But Beck's staying, so I don't think that matters anymore. This is a good question. Who do you think Dante Williams would help UGA and put in a good position in the portal, 2024 or 2025 recruits? In other words, Georgia hired Dante Williams. The news broke while we were having the event together. We're having a great party before the basketball game. Everybody. A lot of people from UGA Sports, the dog event, the great message board there, got together. We were laughing, cutting up, and right in the middle of it, I felt bad because all of a sudden the Dante Williams news broke. So we're on the phone trying to confirm it, and I reached out to him. He finally got back to me a few days later. It was hilarious. He had already confirmed it by then. But the point is, guys, give me some names that would be associated with Dante Williams. Everyone talks about him being a good recruiter. That is usually Kirby Smart's 1A requirement when he hires anybody, is that they be a good recruiter. 1B is that they know what they're doing. There have been a lot of good recruiters who Kirby has turned down, because when he puts them on the whiteboard and says, okay, 3rd and 8, here's what the offense is doing. Here's where the ball is. Here's the hash mark. Here's, what's up part of the field. What defense do you call? What do you call if it's a running quarterback? What do you call if they've got a great Z receiver, And he grills these guys, and some guys have failed. But so in other words, if Dante Williams made it through the Kirby Smart test, he obviously knows football. But talk to me from a recruiting standpoint, some 2024, 2025 kids, or somebody maybe in the portal that he might be good friends with.
Yeah, well, we mentioned Damani Jackson from USC. 2024, I just think it's kind of – there's no real obvious guy who would follow him. Now, Jarvis Boatwright is a guy who's from Florida. He's a safety, had a Georgia offer in his recruitment anyway. It's interesting to see. If he signs with USC in 2 days, then it doesn't really matter. I wonder if, just spitballing, if there are any USC guys who were maybe planning to sign in December and then hold off and maybe try to visit Georgia in January, maybe just to kind of get the lay of the land. But I don't know. That's just kind of throwing it out there. But you look at 25, there's DJ Pickett, who's a safety out of Florida. There's –
oh, yeah. He's good.
He's really good. And, some of these guys who are national recruits, there's Jet White, who's committed to USC or was committed to USC at one point.
Darius Dixon.
There's so much talent. Mater Dei and St. John Bosco are just 2 ridiculous programs out there for starters, where there's just – and you look at even – when Georgia brought in David Hill, all the connections he has in Arizona, that area of the country. I'm sure Dante Williams has similar connections, not just in California, all through the West Coast. So I think you're going to see a lot of guys in the spring that I'm not going to say wouldn't have visited Georgia otherwise, but you're going to see a lot of West Coast flavor, I think, of guys who maybe didn't have Georgia on their radar as much now coming to see Georgia paired with a guy that they've got a really good relationship with in Dante Williams.
I think Mater Dei has 2 highly rated cornerbacks. McDonald, Chuck McDonald, I think his name is. But he was big in their school. I know that he had a lot of connections to Mater Dei, and I think it's Chuck McDonald. Let's see. Yeah, Chuck McDonald the second. Number 28 player in the country, and then they have Darius Dixon, who's another cornerback from Mater Dei, who's the number 24 player in the country.
I'd say another name in 2025 that I talked to this season that Jed knows is Dwayne Galloway out of Columbus, Ohio. I think Georgia's like top. I spoke to him like a month ago, and Georgia was like top on his list, and he was very excited, about his visit. So that's another name in 2025.
Yeah, for sure.
There's 100 comments in here about Juju Lewis. Committed out there. I think you can flip him. Or I guess
I am still in the skeptical camp of the Julian Lewis and Georgia thing. I have had people tell me that Georgia is still right in it, that they're working, and I'm sure they are. I mean, you don't give up on a guy that's 2 hours from Athens is that kind of talent. I personally am skeptical, but Georgia's going to try. They're going to try really hard to flip him from USC for sure. I mean, he visited twice, maybe 3 times in the fall after he committed. So it's not like he's shut things down from a Georgia standpoint by any means. So you can't rule it out. Personally, I'm skeptical about it, but there's going to be a long way to go.
A lot of factors here to say this is going to be maybe the all-time NIL.
Yeah, I mean,
and we know how Georgia does it. So I like Jess said, I'm skeptical just from that sense.
I'm vetoing any more Juju Lewis talk because that ain't happening.
He might ask for part ownership of a college team. I don't know.
The kid has 132,000 followers on Instagram as a 15, 16-year-old kid.
I'm impressed.
So I mean, he's got a bunch on TikTok. I mean, he, like Trent said, that's an NIL. I mean, Sports Illustrated had an NIL cover, and he was on the cover of that magazine for a reason. I mean, there's all kind of factors going on there. But
raise your hand if you think Kirby Smart gets into that headache.
No.
Jed, put your hand down.
Lance, put your broken ass wrist down. Yeah, Lance has a busted wrist from all the typing he does with updates.
Yeah.
Yeah, typing.
Yeah. Sure. Typing.
Everybody's got jokes.
Absolutely. There's a lot of more questions about Walter Nolan. We mentioned that Georgia's in him. A couple questions about who else they might get. Any signing day flips. I will say that Georgia's going to continue to recruit Juju because you never know what's going to happen. They're still recruiting KJ Bolden.
Mm-hmm.
And you never know what's going to happen. They'll be on him. The only person I think they're not going to recruit anymore, and this kind of until signing day is Phil and Raiola. They've moved on there, but
I think you got to recruit KJ Bolden just because you got dad in your corner, and you want to take that last. You want to recruit him all the way to signing day because something odd could happen, but you do have that in your corner, and I think that's one reason why you want to keep recruiting him.
Oh, I like Antoine Hill, 2025. He's good. Ryan Montgomery.
See, Antoine Hill,
big fan of Ryan Montgomery.
Georgia hadn't been super in on him, even for he committed to Colorado and has since decommitted from Colorado. I can't bring myself to totally rule him out because, as we all know, he's Trey Hill's nephew. He's been to Athens a million times. I don't believe he'll end up in Athens, but as the Georgia staff kind of evaluates, okay, we're more likely to take a 25 kid now, say in January. You can't totally rule out, an Antoine Hill possibility for sure.
And Ryan Montgomery is already planned the trip.
Yeah, Ryan Montgomery, I think, is the guy everybody needs to
in January.
Athens. He's been to Athens a ton, before, even for a while when it looked like Georgia might not take a 2025 quarterback. He's been to Athens probably 3-4 times unofficially from Ohio. Julian Lewis gets on the interstate and it's a 2.5 hour drive to Athens. Ryan Montgomery, there's a flight or a long drive, or it's the whole thing. So he loves Georgia. He's got a strong connection with Bobo, knows Kirby. So that I think is the number one name to watch. Now I do think you're going to have guys working out on campus in the spring. There's going to be some new offers go out probably at quarterback in 2025. But yeah, Ryan Montgomery's the guy to watch.
I think the plan's definitely flipped over the last week to because 2025 was not going to be a quarterback year, and now it is going to be a quarterback year, and now you're going to start seeing it.
So we'll have that's basically come Thursday or Friday after signing day. There will be here the list of 2025 quarterbacks to look at in this upcoming class. So we will have a update on quarterbacks for you. But again, people asking about any like signing day flips. So KJ Bolden's the only one I could think of. I don't think he's going to FSU. I know he's telling people he is. I said a long time ago he's either going to flip to Georgia or flip to Auburn. I think it's going to be Auburn. If he does come to Georgia, he's going to come to Georgia making a lot less money than he would make at Auburn or FSU. And like you said, Trent, that you got the dad on your side. He wants him to come here. He's made no bones about it. You got the dad on that side. It's the same thing with Walter Nolan. If Walter Nolan somehow winds up at Georgia, he's going to turn down a boatload of money at Ole Miss, maybe a bunch of other schools. He's going to come to Georgia because Georgia's selling they're selling development. Come here, we'll put you in the NFL. Trey Scott will get you into the NFL. KJ Bolden, come here, we'll get you into the NFL. Now, not to say those other schools can't, but Georgia does have 25 guys who signed, NFL contracts the last 2 years. So they've got that going for them. And if you get these kids, be excited about it because you got them, I don't want to say at a premium, but you didn't spend as much as everybody else did because Georgia just won't do it. So that's why I'm like, oh, yeah, Georgia's in it for KJ Bolden. I'm like, you have to go almost to you're going against the market because they're not putting out as much money as everybody else is. So, but they have something that the other schools don't, and that's right now a very recent proven track record of developing players and getting them into the NFL. So, let's see what else we got here. From R Hall 55, how many JUCOs does UGA take? Are we expecting JUCOs to sign Wednesday? You see, everything I'm asking is about, are there going to be new names on Wednesday?
Yeah, it doesn't look like any. I mean, Brian Taylor was on the radar for a while. Jaden Hamlin was on the radar for a while, and now it's kind of dwindled down to nothing really. And it's funny because this class was one where the JUCO guy kind of came back into vogue a little bit, and we had to cover it a little bit. And now all of a sudden we get down to the end, and it looks like it's going to be zero. So, barring a surprise, I don't think Georgia ends up getting any JUCO guys.
What about the kid that went to Lackawanna Community College and then went to Florida?
Colby Young.
He's Miami. Excuse me.
Yeah, Colby Young, and that's with visiting Penn State. There's obviously some roots up there. So
technically, I guess you say our whole maybe two schools removed from. That he's a JUCO, but that's it. All right, UGA Ma says, what's the backstory on Evan Stewart from A&M this summer? Is he a possible option, or did talks fade?
I don't think he is officially in the portal, is he? Am I wrong?
Not to my knowledge.
Not as of before the show, no.
Yeah, double check. Things break on the show all the time.
It's the same as our classic saying, you're committed till you're not. You're not in the portal till you are. So now, that being said, I'm sure that's a guy that Georgia would love to add because he is an absolute monster at receiver at Texas A&M with, the level of quarterback play he would get at Georgia would be far beyond what he's gotten at A&M the past 2 years. That's another one where.
Hey, be nice to Max.
Max Johnson wasn't a knocking on the door Heisman finalist. He's a solid player.
It's fair. It's fair. I'm just
saying, that's one where you would expect the NIL to get weird, just being a star receiver. But similar as Walter Nolan, Roddy. You can sell development. You can sell
hard to sell development to a wide receiver.
But that's true. And there's the whole. Do you want to come here and block? Do you want to come here and catch 40 passes for 600 yards, or do you want to be sold on catching 75 passes for 1,300 yards at USC or whatever? So yeah, long story short, I'm sure Georgia would try. They'd contact him, but he's got to go to the portal first. So
I'm really interested to see life after Brock Bowers and Darnell Washington. We're about to see it. and all the passes and all that were called over the past 2 years, where is those targets going to now? And I'm interested to see what wide receiver puts up big numbers. And I know Oscar Depp is good. No, Lawson Lucky are good. They're not the other two. And I'm interested to see where those targets go, because Georgia's still going to sling the rock. I mean, Bobo's going to pass the ball, especially getting Beck back. So it's going to be very interesting to see.
Yeah,
I think
go ahead.
if you can stay healthy, a wide receiver is going to have a big year. I think a wide receiver is going to have a big year.
It's going to be Dominic Lovett. I'm making my call now. What portal wide receivers are strongly considering UGA besides Humphreys? The reason, coming off the heels of what you just asked, just quickly, who else are they looking at?
We mentioned Colby Young. There was, let me make sure I'm saying it's Jerron Glover, I believe. Yes, Jerron Glover from Michigan State. Visited over the weekend, actually tweeted out some Georgia pictures today. So that's one to know.
Good looking athlete there. Doesn't have a ton of stats, but man, he looks the part.
He was hurt, I think, part of this year too. But I mean, he's got good build, 6'1", 205, like you said.
Is that the Michigan State kid?
Yes.
Yeah, Glover. So
ask him if he can borrow a brace.
Those are the three that kind of stand out off the top of my head. And like we said earlier, Georgia feels good about its spot with Humphreys right now.
If I was a Michigan State player, I'd probably faked injuries this year.
Yeah.
From What's Up, Dog, will UGA sign more than 2 5-star players in the 2024 class?
They already have 2 5-star players.
Yeah, I mean, you got more than 2. I mean, it doesn't look like it. I don't know.
If you flip KJ, you'll have 3.
Now, I will say this. I don't think this is maybe exactly what he's asking, but there are some guys who could maybe elevate to 5-star status by the end of this thing.
That's up to you.
Yeah, that's entirely up to me. As we all know, for those who need a refresher, I do all the rankings. So actually, I think this is our first show since the new 2024 rankings came out. So I put a lot of work, a lot of effort into those. So I hope everybody.
If you go refresh the rankings, Dylan Raoul is now a 4-star.
Right. Yeah, I did that. I had that in the hopper ready to go. So, I mean, if you look at Georgia's commits, let's see. So you've got, I know Joseph Jonah Ajonye is at like 60, 63. So Jordan Hall at this time last year was kind of in a similar range, and then he went to the All-American Bowl or whatever and dominated and got up to 5-star status. So, Joseph Jonah Ajonye is a guy who could get there. Nate Frazier's at 62. I mean, we're kind of harsh on running backs, or I am, because after the Browns lost Nick Chubb, I'm kind of down on running backs right now. So it's a little bit of a source.
Hey, let me jump in here real quick, folks. This is all tongue in cheek.
Yes,
it's not the only person who has. He has jack squat to do with the rankings. Do not yell, because look, we got a lot of new people that haven't watched before, and the rankings are done by a committee of folks at Rivals.com. They're the best in the business. The rankings are continuously every year shown out to be the most accurate. We've been doing it for 30 years. Not quite 30, 1997. So 26 years. So it's they've been doing this a long time. So, so we joke about the rankings there and Jed doing it because Jed always gets accused of it, but that's not really fair.
I think the 2 guys you would have to watch, Joseph Jonah Ajonye is at 63, Chris Cole's at 66.
Okay.
One of those guys could.
They'd have to have a hell of a jump though to make it into the top 30.
That's a heck of a jump. Yeah, I mean, Jonah Ajonye, I think, is such a freak. He could go dominate. But the thing is, he's already in Athens for bowl practice. So if he's staying in Athens, he doesn't have that.
Yeah, he's not going to move.
He can still rise, but
a lot of those guys that moved in last year went to All-American Bowls. So yeah, they moved in, practiced with the team when the team left to go to. They've made that it's not a violation or anything now. So when the team went to the bowl game or the playoff or where to practice, they went to the All-American game. So as long as they're not injured, then they'll be fine.
So I think Jonah Ajonye he plays a premium position, and he's an athletic freak. So that would be the guy that could maybe rise up to 5-star status and get you to 3 5 stars. But
all right, well, that's your answer. Let's move on. GOP UGA says, which poet will end up having a sore backside in his career, Dylan Raiola or Oscar Wilde?
I had to look up who Oscar Wilde was, but Not going to say anything there, but Nebraska does. I'm on their theater page now. It's called the Johnny Carson School of Theater and Film. So it's named after Johnny Carson.
I'm just saying, this is why we can't have nice things.
Yeah.
Oh, Lance McCurley.
You know, we open it up to questions and we get trolled like GOP by GOP UGA dog. But he has been around a long time. GOP dog is he's a right. Folks asking about the link. We never did put. You guys suck. All they want is the link to watch the show, and we never put it in there.
This guy.
All right, so I'll take care of that because you guys can't do a simple job. There was a question here from Eddie from Ackworth, who hosts our Sunday show. Won't there be transfers no one's thinking about from Washington, Texas, Bama, and Michigan after their games end? Yes, and here's the thing. I think a lot of people were really upset with the whole all the Georgia guys that went in. And remember, you can go. There's 15 guys. 12 of those guys are not going to play at Georgia. Okay, I mean, how many did you lose from the 2 deep? 3. So don't worry about 12 guys. You made room for better players or guys that weren't going to play. So, but a lot of people were freaking out. Alabama has only lost 2. Well, yeah, they're in the playoff run. Georgia didn't lose anybody till after they won the first championship. The day back, Jed was in the car with me. What did we do, Jed?
Roddy put out a list. Guys, it was 3 categories. We think are entering, could enter, and guys to watch. Or something.
Like, here's the ones we expect to, here's the ones that could, and here's the ones that are possibilities. Where'd we do it?
In the middle of the scenic drive from Indianapolis back to Athens.
We pulled over on the side of the road and rode it up because everyone else had guys jump in the portal. Georgia hadn't. And the day after the thing, they all started going. And I'm like, oh, man, I thought we'd have a little time to put that list together, at least be able to drive home. Now, we had to stop at a gas station, while Jeb was out smoking, I was busily typing away on my phone.
I was waking up from a nap. I remember this because I woke up.
True, Jack. You did work all night.
Where the hell are we? This is in Athens. What the? Yeah. Good times.
Fun stuff. But again, it's not. There are more names that could go in. We talked about Mike Williams. He might put his name in there. Julian Humphreys. He might put his name in there. Be a guy you don't know. You're not expecting. Put his name in there. But each one that opens up, that's a spot. A couple other guys. There's some guys on the team that I fully expected to put their names in there that haven't yet, and they might later on. So don't. I mean, remember how many new guys are on the basketball team this year?
12, 9, 12.
I thought it was 10.
They kept 4 or 5 from last year.
Yeah, so he kept 4. Look where basketball is now, and that's not uncommon for basketball. This is the new normal for football across the thing. Every team's going to lose 15, 20 players. I just think that's the way it's going to be from now on until things change. So don't and for Georgia, you got to like Georgia's chances of having 15, 20 guys go into the portal versus if you're Cincinnati, Louisville, in any, these tier 2 teams, the rich are going to get richer, the poor are going to get poor. It's human nature. And Georgia is getting better and better on NIL right now. They're the number 5 team in NIL, from what I understand. But there are some teams
they've been like an affiliate to the major league teams. I mean, they just all their good players. He's going to Colorado. He's going to LSU.
Yeah, you get a kid like London Humphreys, great receiver. Freshman All-American. He was in the portal the minute it opened. Looking at Georgia, might wind up there. It's like, hey, if you're good, let me go to the bigger teams.
All 3 of their starting wide receivers left.
Yeah. Hey, if you think about it, if you're a Group 5 coach and you get a good cornerback, good quarterback, good running back, good defensive end, he's going to jump to P5. So what was the best strength on your team is now a glaring emptiness.
You almost got to like hold them back throughout the year. Just hold your stats back.
Stop throwing to Smith. We don't need him to be a 700-yard receiver. We need him to be about a 450 wide receiver. Yeah, I can see that. A lot of people have been talking about Xavier McLeod. What are you guys hearing on him?
Yeah, he visited also last weekend. Georgia recruited him hard out of high school. He's close with Jamal Jarrett. Spent a lot of time with him on his official visit. He was at South Carolina, left the team, was kicked off the team. Don't know exactly what the story is there. In talking with him, he seems like, Roddy, you were talking about Georgia selling development to these guys. Xavier, and this is just how I took it, sounded like a guy who was like, okay, I've had my first year of college out of the way. Now it's time to get serious about this whole development thing. And obviously that's a message that Georgia sells well, especially on the defensive line. So, he told me, again, after he visited, he didn't have any more visits set up. He was trying to finish out the semester at South Carolina. It's going to be interesting to see how or where he might pop up in the next week or two. But like you said, Rowdy, if he wants to go to an SEC school, unlike Georgia, it's got to be in the next 2 weeks or whatever till 2.5 weeks till before the portal window closes. So, I think Georgia's got a good shot of getting McLeod. He's more that 3 tech, I think, which is kind of what Zion Logue played a lot. Georgia's got a good shot at him for sure. And he's a guy Georgia played against and a guy Georgia recruited out of high school, 2 kind of check boxes Kirby Smart looks for in these portal guys.
All right, we'll finish this last one up with the Signal newsletter. Can you get back to the question of which guys might flip to Georgia?
I mean,
there's only one that
have to be something. I mean, it would be a surprise right now. I mean, it would be from well off the radar. Because Roddy, you mentioned KJ Bolden as an obvious candidate. I would be shocked if he ends up in Georgia. Personally, I could very well see him flipping to Auburn.
I mean, they're still working on him. There's no question.
Yeah, absolutely.
They wouldn't. I know the people involved in it, and they said, we're still recruiting, but we're so far behind.
Georgia. Other than that, I mean, there's not off the top of my head. I mean, maybe Dante Williams works some magic with a USC guy, maybe. I don't know. There's not a lot of, like I said, it would be one that's pretty from pretty far back in the pack if somebody ends up flipping to Georgia on Wednesday right now.
It would be far back in the pack, and it'd probably be a cornerback the way Kirby
thinks
about things.
Yeah. So. Cornerback or safety for sure.
Got to find a safety out there. Any safety. Can you fog a mirror and play safety? Come on in. Kirby will coach you up, and if it doesn't work out, it's always a portal. All right, folks, we're going to break there. We went a little long because we had a lot of stuff to talk about. But again, it is the last show before signing day. Signing days in 48 hours. Well, actually less than that. We'll go through tomorrow. A lot of great stuff on UGAsports.com. We had a war room this morning that the guys put together. A lot of great recruiting nuggets on there. We kind of showed you. We started off the show giving you some of the stuff that's in the war room. So we gave you the premium stuff right off the bat. So if you tuned in midway through, go back and watch the show from the beginning. We put part of the war room on the screen for you. You can see some stuff that you wouldn't see otherwise. We've got updates. I know there's a great coach's corner about Ryan Puglisi. Lance got a hold of his coach, and he had some great things to say about him. We're breaking down each position. Jed has how's the quarterback room look? How's the running back rooms look? With the incoming class. So it's I can't wait to do the offensive line room with 6 different guys in there. Look at Jed's breakdown on it. And if you go on the vault, Trent's got a lot of nuggets over there. That's a great place to keep up with the information. There's a million things going on right now. There's no way if you're just trying to read Twitter that you're going to be able to keep up with it. So check out UGAsports.com. Go to the vault. There's the dog vent, which is where we talk all the football stuff. We broke the news about Carson Beck 2 weeks ago. We broke the news about Ladd McConkey, Brock Powers, all this stuff. People asking who's going to play in the bowl game. We've been dropping as soon as we find out, we put them up there. So a lot of stuff on the dog vent. And then there's the vault, which is just for Georgia recruiting. That's all we talk about over there. No politics, no hotel recommendations, no food recommendations, no recipes, no bourbon talk. It's just recruiting on the vault. And these 3 guys run that thing left and right. So check out the vault at UGAsports.com for the latest. And we'll see you next week as we recap. Maybe there's some crazy things that happen on signing day. We'll talk about it. Let me be sure. Let me look at the map. No, we won't. Next Monday. It's Christmas.
Let's say it's Christmas.
Oh. So we'll have the Christmas edition of Rumors. So here's what we might do. I think we could do one this Wednesday night, or this Wednesday at 6:00. We'll have Jed on with Coach Donnan, and we will do a signing day recap Wednesday at 6. So we'll take next week off because the Monday's the 25th, and then the following week is all bowl prep. and Jed and Lance will be down there in Miami to cover the team. So, yeah, well, if you want to talk more recruiting, check either ask us a question on the vault or check with us Wednesday at 6:00 with Coach Donnan and Jed May. And with that, we will see you guys later. Y'all take care.